I mean, he's trying to prey on people's worst instincts and get them angry and riled up. And that's something he tends to do.
It's just a few months away from the general elections, and recently, a former White House aide has come forward to reveal some disturbing secrets about her former boss, Donald Trump. In this video, we will provide insight into what the former aide has to say about the inner workings of his administration and his plans if he emerges president for the second time. The secrets. In 2019, Sarah's career took a significant turn when she joined Donald Trump's 2020 presidential campaign as a spokesperson. This was a pivotal moment for Sarah as she found herself thrust into the national spotlight. Her role as a spokesperson required her to be the face and voice of the campaign, defending its policies and promoting its message to the American people. Sarah's hard work and dedication did not go unnoticed. In June 2020, she was appointed as the White House Deputy Press Secretary, serving alongside Judd Deere. This promotion marked a significant milestone in her career as she became a key member of the Trump administration's communications team. As the Deputy Press Secretary, Sarah played a crucial role in shaping the administration's messaging and managing media relations. Her ability to navigate the often contentious relationship between the press and the White House was commendable. Sarah's calm demeanor and quick thinking under pressure earned her the respect of journalists and colleagues alike. Throughout her time in the Trump administration, Sarah faced numerous challenges and witnessed historic events. However, it was one particular event that would ultimately lead to her resignation and change the course of her career forever. On January 6, 2021, the United States Capitol came under attack by a violent mob. The events of that day shook the nation to its core and tested the resolve of those in positions of power. Sarah, like many others, was faced with a defining moment that would shape her future. In the wake of the attack, Sarah made the difficult decision to resign from her position as Deputy Press Secretary. She could no longer defend the actions and words of President Trump, who had failed to condemn the violence and uphold the principles of democracy. Sarah's resignation sent shockwaves through the political landscape as she became one of the first high-profile figures to distance herself from the Trump administration.
And so I finished out the workday, went home and called my loved ones to tell them of my decision, and resigned that evening.
Since her resignation, Sarah has been an outspoken critic of Trump and his 2024 presidential campaign. Her testimony before the United States House Select Committee on the January 6th attack in July 2022 shed light on the events that transpired and the role played by the Trump administration. On the morning of January 6th, President Trump addressed his supporters near the White House, delivering a speech that would have far-reaching consequences. Standing before a sea of red, "Make America Great Again" hats, he reiterated his belief that the election had been stolen from him. He encouraged his followers to fight and overturn the result of the bitterly contested election, stating, "We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, and we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong." These words resonated deeply with his supporters, many of whom were already primed for action. They believed that their country was at stake, and they were willing to do whatever it took to defend what they saw as the truth. As the crowd dispersed from the White House, a sense of anticipation hung in the air. The stage was set for a dramatic and unprecedented turn of events. Meanwhile, in Congress, lawmakers were preparing for the joint session to certify the election results. It was meant to be a ceremonial event, a formality that would officially declare Joe Biden as the next president of the United States. As the morning turned into afternoon, thousands of Trump supporters began to gather near the Capitol, their anger and frustration reaching a boiling point. They saw themselves as patriots fighting for their country, convinced that the election had been stolen from them. Many of them carried signs and flags, proudly displaying their support for President Trump. The outer ring of security around the Capitol building was breached, and the crowd surged forward, taking Donald Trump's words to heart. They were determined to take the fight to the heart of American democracy. They banged on the doors of Congress, demanding to be heard. The police, overwhelmed by the sheer number of protesters, struggled to maintain control. Inside the Capitol building, lawmakers and their staff were hastily evacuated as the situation escalated. The halls that were usually filled with the business of democracy were now filled with chaos and uncertainty. The joint session, which was meant to be a symbol of unity and the peaceful transfer of power, was abruptly adjourned. As the protesters made their way inside the Capitol, armed and wandering the halls, scenes of violence and destruction unfolded. There were tense confrontations with law enforcement officers who had never dealt with anything of this magnitude. The shocking images of a woman protester being shot inside the Capitol building circulated widely, adding to the sense of chaos and danger. President Trump eventually released a video message calling on his supporters to stand down and go home. However, his words were met with mixed reactions. While some heeded his call, many others remained defiant, believing that their fight was not over. It's important to understand that Trump's rise was fueled by a combination of factors. He tapped into the frustrations and anxieties of a significant portion of the American population who felt left behind by the political establishment. His outsider status and unfiltered rhetoric resonated with many who were looking for a change. But as his campaign gained traction, it became clear that Trump was not just another politician. He thrived on controversy and pushed the boundaries of acceptable behavior. In her recent interview, Sarah Matthews said,
saying things like poisoning the blood of our country. I mean, he's trying to prey on people's worst instincts and get them angry.
She says he is stoking anger and fear in the minds of people, which is a dangerous tactic that undermines the fabric of the society. The threat lies in the fact that Trump's words have real-world consequences. When he spreads baseless claims about election fraud, it undermines the trust in democratic processes. But it goes beyond that. Trump has shown a complete disregard for the Constitution, institutions, and the rule of law. She further reveals that she believes he is above the law and has no qualms about trampling on the principles that the nation was built upon. This to her is a clear and present danger to democracy. According to Sarah Matthews, she says that some people may dismiss the notion as alarmist, but they need to pay attention to what Trump himself has said. In her words, he has openly declared that he would be a dictator on day one if given the chance, and his actions during his first term, particularly his attempts to overturn a free and fair election, show that he has no respect for our Constitution or the rule of law. Donald Trump's dangerous rhetoric and actions were not carried out in a vacuum. There were individuals within his administration and the Republican Party who enabled and supported him every step of the way. One prominent figure is Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House during Trump's presidency. Right now, we're witnessing his obstruction of the Ukraine aid bill, which is crucial for the soldiers in Ukraine. Instead of prioritizing the aid and standing on the side of freedom, he seems more concerned with appeasing Donald Trump. It's a departure from the fundamental values of the Republican Party. There are many others who have played a role in enabling Trump. Some have been vocal in their support, while others have remained silent, complicit in their inaction. It's important to hold all of them accountable. One example is those members of Congress who, on January 6th, hid behind desks as the Capitol was under attack, only to now claim that they were hostages. It's ironic and hypocritical to hear them use that language when their statements in the aftermath of January 6th showed a different sentiment. Their actions, or lack thereof, speak volumes about their true loyalties. It's truly astonishing to think that those who were meant to protect and serve the American people would cower in the face of danger. Expressing herself, Sarah says, "Their behavior is deeply troubling. It's a stark contrast to the bravery and courage shown by the Capitol police officers who put their lives on the line to protect our democracy."
And so it's really ironic then to hear them say that January 6th rioters were hostages now and use a language like that.
Their actions, or lack thereof, reveal a lack of moral courage and a willingness to prioritize their own political interests over the well-being of our nation. It's a betrayal of the trust placed in them by the American people. Sarah's resignation was a powerful statement, a testament to her unwavering commitment to the principles of democracy and her refusal to stand by silently in the face of the Capitol attack. It was a decision that garnered attention from both supporters and critics alike. Sarah Matthews' resignation was a significant blow to the Trump administration. It highlighted the growing discontent within the ranks and raised questions about the president's handling of the situation. Her decision to resign was a courageous act. It showed that there were individuals within the administration who were willing to take a stand against the violence and chaos that unfolded on January 6th. The impact of Sarah's resignation extended beyond the confines of the press office. It reverberated throughout the nation, prompting a broader conversation about accountability and the role of leadership in times of crisis. The public's response to Sarah's resignation was mixed. Some praised her for taking a principled stand, while others criticized her for not speaking out sooner. But regardless of the varying opinions, her resignation served as a stark reminder of the gravity of the events that transpired on that fateful day. In the weeks following her resignation, Sarah's decision sparked a wave of similar actions from other individuals within the Trump administration. It became clear that the events of January 6th 6th had shaken the foundation of loyalty and raised questions about the future of the administration. The aftermath of Sarah Matthews' resignation also had a profound impact on the public's perception of President Trump. It further polarized an already divided nation, with some viewing his actions as indefensible, while others remained steadfast in their support. Some supporters said Sarah Matthews' resignation was nothing more than a political stunt. She should have stayed and defended the president. Others felt her resignation was a necessary step in holding the president accountable. It was a brave act in the face of an administration that failed to condemn the violence. As the dust settled, the resignation of Sarah Matthews became a pivotal moment in the history of the Trump presidency. It served as a stark reminder of the consequences of words and actions and the power of individuals to make a difference. Unhinged Donald Trump.
You would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Donald Trump's campaign theme of retribution became the centerpiece of his bid for a second term. He promised to be the voice of vengeance, leaving many wondering what this would mean for the nation. In a recent interview with Fox News host Sean Hannity, Donald Trump faced tough questions about his potential abuse of power if re-elected to a second term. The interview, which took place in front of an Iowa audience, quickly became a focal point of discussion due to Trump's choice of words and the implications they carried. Hannity, known for his friendly rapport with Trump, asked the president directly if he had any plans to abuse power, break the law, or use the government to go after people. This question was crucial in understanding Trump's stance on the limits of his authority and his commitment to democratic principles. Trump's response was both intriguing and controversial. He initially dismissed the question, suggesting that the accusations against him were baseless and politically motivated. He compared himself to the infamous mob boss Al Capone, highlighting that he had been indicted 4 times, while Capone had only faced 1 indictment. This comparison aimed to downplay the seriousness of the allegations against him and portray them as mere political attacks. However, Hannity persisted, seeking a clear answer from Trump. The president then made a statement that caught the attention of the audience and the media alike. He declared that he would not be a dictator, except for on his first day in office. This statement, while seemingly tongue-in-cheek, raised concerns and sparked intense debate about Trump's intentions and his understanding of the limits of presidential power. Trump's assertion that he would only act as a dictator on his first day in office left many puzzled. It was unclear whether he was joking or if there was a deeper meaning behind his words. The audience's reaction was mixed, with some applauding his strong stance, while others expressed unease at the notion of a president wielding dictatorial powers, even if it was meant in a limited capacity. The interview took a further twist when Trump clarified his statement. He emphasized that his intention was not retribution, but rather to address pressing issues on day 1 of his second term. He specifically mentioned his desire to close the border and implement policies like drilling for oil. Trump argued that these actions were necessary to fulfill his campaign promises and protect American interests. While Trump's clarification provided some context, it did little to assuage concerns about his potential abuse of power. Critics argued that his rhetoric exhibited authoritarian tendencies, pointing to his willingness to entertain the idea of acting as a dictator, even if it was for a limited period. Supporters, on the other hand, viewed his statement as a demonstration of his determination to take swift action and deliver on his promises. Critics of Trump were quick to condemn his remarks, arguing that they exhibited authoritarian tendencies and a disregard for democratic norms. They pointed to his willingness to entertain the idea of acting as a dictator, even if it was meant in a limited capacity, as evidence of his dangerous disregard for the principles of checks and balances. They viewed his statement as a clear indication of his desire for unchecked power and a potential threat to the foundations of American democracy. Furthermore, critics argued that Trump's refusal to directly answer whether he would be a dictator left many questioning his intentions and fueling speculation about his leadership style. They contended that his evasive response only served to deepen concerns about his potential abuse of power and his commitment to democratic principles. They viewed his choice of words as a red flag, signaling a willingness to bend or break the rules for personal gain. On the other hand, supporters of Trump interpreted his statements differently. They saw his strong stance as a demonstration of his determination to deliver on his promises and take swift action. They argued that his willingness to act decisively on day 1 of his second term was a testament to his commitment to addressing pressing issues and protecting American interests. They viewed his choice of words as a reflection of his no-nonsense approach to governance. Supporters also dismissed the criticism of Trump's rhetoric as overblown and politically motivated. They contended that his words were taken out of context and exaggerated by his opponents in the media. They believed that Trump's statements were meant to be taken figuratively, emphasizing his resolve to make significant changes rather than a literal desire for dictatorial powers. The reactions to Trump's choice of words extended extended beyond political pundits and media outlets. The general public also weighed in on the matter, with opinions varying widely. Some individuals expressed concern and unease at the notion of a president entertaining the idea of acting as a dictator, even if it was meant as a joke or a limited reference. They viewed it as a dangerous precedent that could undermine the democratic fabric of the nation. Others, however, saw Trump's statements as a refreshing departure from traditional political rhetoric. They appreciated his directness and perceived it as a sign of authenticity and transparency. They believed that Trump's willingness to speak his mind, even if it meant using unconventional language, was a key factor in his appeal to many Americans. Slow burn. Sarah Matthew pointed out during her interview the series of controversies and stories going on in the battleground states of New Hampshire and Iowa. She says there are signs of a deep schism within the Republican Party. These states, known for their influential roles in the primary process, have become the battleground for a clash of ideologies and loyalties. From examining the demographics of Trump voters and non-Trump voters in these states, some intriguing differences were found. Gender and age seem to have little impact on the divide, as both factions have relatively equal proportions of men and women, and their age distributions are similar. However, the divide becomes apparent when focus is diverted to education and income. Non-Trump voters in New Hampshire and Iowa are more likely to have college degrees, setting them apart from their Trump-supporting counterparts. They also tend to have higher incomes, with many earning above $50,000 or even $100,000. This suggests that the opposition to Trump within the Republican Party is not limited to a specific socioeconomic group, but extends to those who have achieved higher levels of education and financial success. Furthermore, the geographic divide is worth noting. Non-Trump voters in these states tend to be more suburban, aligning with the traditional image of the Republican Party before Donald Trump's rise to power. They represent what was once known as the Country Club Republicans, upper-income suburban voters who were the backbone of the party before Trump's populist appeal brought in a wave of working-class supporters. It is clear that Trump's activation of previously disengaged working-class voters has come at a cost. While he has successfully brought in a new base of supporters, he has simultaneously alienated a significant portion of the party's traditional supporters.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Trump's unorthodox approach to politics and his willingness to challenge established norms and institutions have resonated strongly with his base. They see him as a disruptor who can bring about the change they desire. On the other hand, non-Trump voters are more skeptical of his methods and are concerned about the potential consequences of his rule-breaking behavior. When it comes to the charges against Trump, the divide becomes even more pronounced. Nearly all of his supporters view these charges as political attempts to undermine him, dismissing them as part of a larger conspiracy. In contrast, non-Trump voters are more likely to see these charges as legitimate attempts to investigate important issues. They believe in the importance of accountability and transparency in government. A majority of Trump supporters feel that Joe Biden's victory was not legitimately elected, while non-Trump voters accept Biden's win as legitimate. These fundamental rejections of the Donald Trump proposition and the things he stands for highlight the contrasting beliefs and values of these factions. From historic and unconstitutional attempts to overturn a democratic election to the relentless rhetoric of a leader willing to break every barrier, Sarah Matthew and her colleagues Cassidy Hutchinson and Griffin were faced with a reality that shook them to their core. They saw Donald Trump's actions play out before their eyes. The claims of a stolen and fraudulent election, the erratic behavior, the calls to dismantle parts of the Constitution, all of which to them was a wake-up call.
Everyone who is in the West Wing, and frankly a lot of cabinet secretaries, they know how dangerous Trump is.
According to them, they knew the dangers that lay ahead. They had a front-row seat to the manipulation of government, the weaponization of institutions, and the threats that targeted those who dared to oppose. It wasn't just about politics or policy. It was about the character of the man leading the free world. We couldn't stay silent any longer. The idea of Trump returning to power was a very real concern to Sarah and her colleagues. They had met with former cabinet secretaries who shared the same worries. The threats, harassment, and death threats that followed his deliberate targeting were horrifying. Sarah said, "What scared me as much as Trump and his retribution was the cult-like following he had over his most die-hard supporters. The level of loyalty and the willingness of Trump's supporters to go to extreme lengths to defend him was unlike anything they had ever witnessed." These women further went on to say Trump's ability to use the government to his advantage was a cause for alarm. They had also said they knew he could strategically place loyalists in key positions, weaponizing every level of government against his detractors, the American people, and the media. This way, the potential consequences were almost too frightening to comprehend. As the women spoke out against Trump, they faced personal sacrifices and potential security threats, but they believed it was the right thing to do, as time was running out to prevent Trump from returning to the Oval Office. They spoke up in the interview by addressing the need to stop Trump from being in power again, as they were running out of time. They further said it was crucial that they come forward and encourage others to do the same. The American people need to remember the chaos of the Trump years and the threat to democracy. That exists. We can't afford to forget or ignore what is at stake. In their interview, they said the election is fundamental to safeguarding institutions and the constitutional republic. For this reason, they must therefore make informed choices and choose democracy over personal policy preferences. The testimonies of Sarah Matthews and the three courageous women have sparked a national conversation. Their insights into the dangers of a second Trump term have resonated with many, while others remain divided. They said it was disappointing to see the split in the nation, with one side embracing truth and reality and the other falling victim to propaganda and lies. To them, this election is about safeguarding the institutions and the constitutional republic. In their recent interview, Sarah and her colleague advocated the absolute need of citizens to recognize their mistakes and work to better their country. The women went on to say that the future of democracy is at stake, not just for them, but for generations to come. For this reason, they saw the need to set an example on the global stage that democracy is an experiment worth protecting. Sarah said it was a tough choice they had all taken, but they have to trust one person with the government and democracy more than the other. In this next election, Sarah encouraged everyone to put policy aside and choose democracy. As the nation approaches the upcoming election, the revelations of these courageous women serve as a reminder of the importance of informed decision-making. The American people must consider the potential consequences of their choices and the impact on the future of the nation. They are hopeful that Trump will be defeated in the primary, but time is running out. Thus, their singular focus must be on ensuring he is not elected president again next November. It's a difficult decision, but we must prioritize democracy over personal policy preferences. The stakes are too high to ignore. We're setting an example for generations to come. If we crumble as a nation, we risk undermining the very foundations of democracy. That's all we have for you in this video. If you would love to watch and explore more of our videos, then click on any of the cards on your screen.